Silence can be learned, it can be taught, and it can be inherited. This is She Chose to Rise, a global storytelling podcast and an annual book project. It's a global Rise and Soar production in partnership with Engage Salone. In many places, silence is framed as protection, as dignity, as survival. But silence also carries weight. It settles into the body. It reshapes how a woman sees herself and what she believes she is allowed to name. Elita Karim is from Bangladesh. Her story is not about one moment, but about many years of struggling to speak up, of being fearful to speak out loud, and the slow, deliberate choice to speak anyway. This episode is about what it costs to stay quiet and what it takes to break the silence, even when your voice shakes. This is Elita's story.
I'm Elita Karim, and I'm a singer and a journalist from Bangladesh. And I'm really happy to be here because I think no matter what you do in life, how much you rise as well, there comes a time when you think that, okay, you know what, I really need to speak out a lot more, share the experiences maybe a little more than I'm usually doing.
Right.
Because you never know how your stories or your experience can actually touch the lives of maybe 10 more people.
Right.
So I think that's what we are doing here today. And I'm so glad that I'm a part of this project, which basically empowers women,
Right.
shares their stories, and I'm really happy to share my story as well.
Thank you. So sweet to hear. Before we go in depth, I believe audience may want to get some context. Where were you raised, and how would you describe like the environment you grew up as a girl?
I was actually raised in the Middle East. I was raised in Saudi Arabia
Okay.
in the 90s,
Okay.
and it was my first home actually. Before considering Bangladesh my home, it was actually my home was actually in Saudi Arabia. I was raised in the eastern province by the sea, and I went to school there. I grew up in an international community,
Right.
mainly with South Asians, Asians actually, not only South Asians. And my father was a teacher, and if I think about it, that's like another life. But I think I had a very good and a healthy childhood. I had friends around me. I had doting parents. Of course, back in the 1990s, Asian parents, Asian parents have always been very strict about education, about discipline, and mine were no different. So yes, I had a very, very healthy, touch wood, I had a very healthy and a good childhood, with three more siblings. And then finally we moved to Bangladesh when I finished high school, and I had to get into a university. So that's when I actually moved to Bangladesh.
Great. So, born in Bangladesh and grew up in
I grew up in Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. Interesting. So, talking about two different countries, as a girl, how were you brought up, and how this shape who you are today as Elita?
In when I was growing up, when we were growing up, I think in Saudi Arabia back then things were very different as compared to how it is now. We were very sheltered. I think we were children even after we finished our high school,
Okay.
because we were very much sheltered. I realize now that we really didn't have an outlook or an what can I say, an idea of how the world actually, what the world is all about, or how the world really looked.
Right.
The kind of independence that you needed to, you know, go out into the world to start working
Right.
or meeting people. I don't think we really had that. I don't think I had that. It was only after I started my university, my undergrads in Bangladesh,
Right.
that's when I started to realize, okay, things are different, you know?
Yeah.
Things are different, and you really need to learn more, and there's no ending to learning, of course.
Right.
And I think, and of course in Bangladesh, I think I had another round of growing up
Right.
in my like late teens and 20s,
Mm-hmm.
because that's when I actually I think I started to how can I say this, like be more face to face
With the realities.
and be and also understand confrontations and actually deal with, you know, learning how to deal with real life as a human being, as a girl. Obviously, you do face a lot of challenges, but I think that whatever has happened till now, right now, I can confidently say that it's because of my past experiences that today, if I am a strong individual, if I have achieved something in life, it's because of how my life was shaped in both these countries.
Right. In your story on the book, you describe how silence was something you learned earlier. It's like, what were you taught directly or indirectly about speaking up as a woman?
I think because we grew up in a very sheltered environment.
Right. When you say sheltered, how would you?
When I say sheltered, I mean that we didn't have to bother about speaking out at all.
Okay.
Or also because where I had grown up, things were a little very much restricted as well.
Okay.
In terms of laws coming from the kingdom, in the government, and which basically shaped the society where we lived, where we were growing up. So I think in the society where we grew up, it was mostly let's not talk about this now.
Mm-hmm.
Or are you having an issue? Are you having something that maybe you shouldn't talk about with your friends or in school?
Right.
You know, let's try to cover it. I mean, like cover it up. I think that's the kind of environment that I had grown up. And why I say sheltered is because I still had my issues, many of my issues. I've been privileged, actually, I should say, that I've had many of my issues and my problems semi-solved or half-solved or fully solved because of very supportive parents, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was growing up in the Middle East and I didn't have really a chance to compare how life would be growing up somewhere else, I was very happy being sheltered. It was only after I got out of the home and outside the four walls, and I started to realize that things are really not as easy as they have been with me. In the story I mentioned about silence, and that is the incident where I actually write about how I realized that, you know, just covering up something or sheltering myself or being silent the entire time is really not the solution to the problems that we face,
Right.
small or big.
Right.
We do need to. In the story, you will see that at one point I do scream out
Right.
in fear or in frustration at the people who are trying to harass me.
Right.
And that's when a lot of the other people who were there if you read the story, you would know how
By the book.
yes, but I'm just going to mention it a little bit. It's about
Yeah.
how a group of people were trying to harass me in the streets of Dhaka, and to escape them, I entered a music shop, and that's when at one point I was like, I'm not going to be silent, and I screamed at the
Right.
people who were following me for days and making me all scared and frightened about my whereabouts.
Right.
When I screamed out, I took a step to say, no, you cannot continue to do this. That's when I had other people come in and support me. Because people will come and support you and help you, or you will get help and assistance only when you start helping yourself. And I think that's what happened in my case as well. There were people around me who were supporting me, and they actually stepped up because I was very young and I didn't know how to save myself, or I did not know how to what was the right thing to do.
Right.
When I screamed out, finally, I voiced out. I let my voice conquer that space
Right.
for like a few seconds. That's when the other people were like, "She's right. What are you guys doing? Why are you here?
Right.
Are you trying to create issues? Are you trying to create problems? What do you want?"
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So that's what it was very, I think, very symbolic for me. The whole idea of breaking the silence and screaming out or voicing out at that particular moment, because I felt safe. I felt like, okay, so at least I know that there is a way to use your voice if ever you are physically you physically face these kind of issues in the streets. I'm sure not everyone has been lucky. I'm sure there are like really intense and severe issues there where maybe you screaming wouldn't really work all the time. But that was just the first step
Right.
of me learning that my voice is not only for singing,
Right.
it's also for keeping me safe.
Right.
Yeah.
For shouting aloud for the world to know.
Yeah.
You need help, right? Because in your chapter, you write about like that moment that you really felt something was not right. I mean, you mentioned growing up you felt sheltered, and you like perceived that as a way of life. You know, it's protective, and until you grow up to the harsh reality, realizing things. And
It's like how it's not only your voice, it's not only your vocal cords, it's not only your brain. I think there are times when you face danger and your entire body
right.
becomes defensive. And I think that's when the body tells you, do something, speak out, scream.
Right.
That's like the first bit of self-defense that you can actually, a self-defense action that you can actually take.
Right. Yeah. So what did breaking the silence look like for you? Is it quiet? Is it loud? Is it gradual? Is it private? Like that moment of moving from
It was
that.
liberating.
Okay.
It was very, very liberating because I felt like, okay, I'm the kind of person who grew up very chatty. I love to talk to aunties. I love to, talk and anchor programs, be the master of ceremonies,
Right.
Conduct a show. I've been doing that ever since I was little. But using my voice, and of course singing, but using my voice to actually save myself or defend myself from strangers who are trying to harass me. Of course, you're always screaming when you're playing football with your friends, or you're in the playground with your friends and you're playing tag. Because I grew up with all those kinds of playground games.
Yeah.
That's one thing. That's you're using your voice with your friends. That's fine. But then when there are strangers in the streets, they're trying to harass you on your way to class or something important that you do on a regular basis.
Right.
If I didn't voice out, then I would have maybe stopped going to class.
Yeah. So the moment of voicing out, like when you realize this is it, it's a defining moment, right? I need to. What was the thought running through? Like, okay, I'm gonna do it, but
I think I don't even remember. I don't think anything actually comes to your mind at that particular time when it's your body,
right.
And it's like an instant, immediate reaction, right? However, I was scared. I think there were like so many things going on in my head at that moment. One thing is that was the regular, usual, daily path that I would take, like at least 3 or 4 times or 5 times a day, a week. And as I wrote in the story, if you buy the book, you would know, is that if that's like a regular activity that you're doing, and if you're always facing challenges, you would at one point feel frustrated and scared.
Right.
That is this what my life is going to be for the rest of my life? Is this what I'm going to be facing? Is this what my life is about now? Like every time I'm going to leave the house, I'll have this. I don't know. I used to get all claustrophobic. Is that, oh my God, are they going to be there now? Are they going to be harassing me? Are these guys going to be following me? You know,
Right.
is this the day? Is today the day when they'll finally come and touch me or grab me or something? You know, I was scared. And then at one point I was like, how much longer is this going to go on for? I have to. I didn't have a plan. I have to stop this right now. I have to do something about this right now.
Right.
So I think that's what happened.
Right. So when you finally decided to like fight and shout, and how did others, say family, friends, other people around you in society respond? Like, how did that response affect you?
I had a lot of positive. I mean, I think maybe I was overthinking at one point that maybe I'm not going to say anything, or maybe just staying quiet would save me,
Right.
and that's much more important than actually fighting.
Right.
But you know, that's not what happened. I mean, I didn't get any negative reactions. I actually got positive reactions
Right.
from my family, from my friends, and also I had that way when the story got out, and because it happened right next to my university, many of my friends were like, "Hey, we have to start looking out for each other
Right.
because maybe the roads are not safe. It's not only for girls,
Right.
for anybody. Maybe the streets are not safe. So whatever we can do, let's do that." So it kind of became like an unofficial club. Maybe not a club, but then I made a lot of friends.
Right.
We were looking out for each other, and through that, I think I got more confident enough to go on with my activities. Same thing at home. I would always think that maybe if I got into a fight or if I did something, and the strict society would probably condemn me for it, because, and then maybe my mother would say staying safe is the best option. You shouldn't have done this, or why were you there? Why did you go there? But actually, after I did this, my mother appreciated me. Wow. Because she said, you can never stop going. You're not going to stop your education because of a few people harassing you in the streets.
Yeah.
You cannot do that, but you have to stay safe. You have to balance it out, because that's how the world is. Right. You have to stay safe. You have to get people, like maybe be in a group or talk about how you can actually look after each other, look out for each other, and you cannot stop what you're destined for.
Right.
Only because a few people are out there to stop you.
Right.
You cannot stop yourself, because it's like how in my culture we say it's already written. It's already written here and here.
And your palm and your forehead.
Your palm and my forehead is like it's written by God here and here.
Okay.
The palm. You know how people say that, I can read your palm.
Right.
And then we also say in my culture, like, it's written on your forehead.
Yeah.
Which basically means it's written, it's stamped.
Yeah.
You can't change. So if you're destined to become a singer, you will be a singer. If you're destined to become a professor or a teacher or a successful person, God has already written it for you.
Right.
Fate is on your side, but you really need to work hard. You cannot just sit around and wait for God and fate to, out of nowhere, you cannot just become the person just because God has written it. That's how we actually explain it. It's a very I think it's a very sweet way of saying it, which is why I'm referring to this whole concept right now,
right?
The cultural concept that we have. But you have to work at it,
right?
You have to voice out. You cannot stay silent all the time.
Exactly, you cannot stay silent.
And I think that's exactly what my mother told me, is that if you're destined for something great, nobody can stop you.
Right. Okay, so positive feedback from everyone around, it's like a moment of eye-opening. It needed that person to take the first step, right? And everybody can see, oh, this was a problem. That was a moment, right?
Yeah.
So how did finding your voice, in terms of protecting yourself, really change the relationship with yourself?
I think I grew up right at that moment. You have to remember that I was very new to the country as well. My own country, but I was very new because I didn't grow up there. But I was commuting all by myself. I did not have a guide to tell me, oh, you know what? Maybe sometimes when you're on a rickshaw, we have cycle rickshaws in my country. You shouldn't go to that alleyway. it's not safe. Maybe you should take the long route around.
Right.
I didn't have a guide to tell me all that. I had to figure out by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And these are big steps actually for a young girl at back. I'm talking about like the early 2000s.
Right.
It is actually a big thing because if you have friends, if you've like grown up somewhere and you grew up with friends, you would know your city much better.
Right.
But I didn't. I didn't grow up with friends in Dhaka in Bangladesh. I had friends back in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
We grew up together, so it was different for me, right?
Right.
Very physical and very emotional as well.
Right.
It was like an emotional and a physical shift from one
Environment
space to another.
Right.
So I had to figure all this by myself. But when I screamed, when I voiced out, and that was also a very physical thing, of course. And when I saw that, okay, there are people are not all that bad. There are people helping me, supporting me. I think I grew up right at that moment, and I was much more confident. I became much more confident to, okay, I don't know this area, but I'm going to go and explore that area.
Right.
I'm not only talking about streets and alleyways. I'm referring to all kinds of spaces that allow you to grow up and become an established human being,
Right.
a person. You have to go out there and explore. I think that's what happened to me. I was like, I'm gonna start exploring. I'm gonna do all the things that I've always dreamt of.
Right.
You know.
In She Chose to Rise, we are telling stories about women who've made one quiet, dangerous, but courageous decision to speak when silence would have been safer. And today we have with us Elita from Bangladesh. This project has two components to it. We have the podcast and then the annual book, an anthology of women from around the world who chose to speak. Here is an excerpt of Elita's story in the book. I learned early that silence was safer than truth, that questions were dangerous, that obedience was praised more than honesty. So I learned to listen, to absorb, to disappear in plain sight. But silence was a cost. It teaches you to doubt your own reality, to second guess your instincts, to shrink your voice until it no longer feels like yours. Breaking silence did not happen all at once. It happened in fragments, in whispers, in the courage to say, "This is not right." So, how, what you experienced, what you went through, the ways that those experiences are shaping who you are, what you do right now in terms of career, the causes you care about today, how is that prevalent? How did those experiences shape?
I think those experiences actually shaped the way I think right now and the way I move right now as well. Because as I told you, I'm a singer. I'm in Bangladesh. I have done a lot of stage shows.
Mm-hmm.
I've also done it outside Bangladesh as well. I've done a lot of tours as well. As a journalist, I have gone outside. I've stepped outside my comfort zone to do stories on sex trafficking. I have done stories on governance. I have reflected on stories of women in rural Bangladesh, and for that I had to step outside my comfort zone. Because it was my work, it was my job,
right.
And I had to go to places, miles away from Dhaka city,
right.
to villages and rural places where I could sit down with them, be one of them, the population, mm-hmm. and listen to their stories so that I could write about them.
Right.
Because I worked for the print media for for 20 years. Same thing with my singing, because when I'm singing, I'm just not sitting with a guitar inside a room and singing. I'm traveling. I'm moving from one place to another,
right.
from one environment to another, from one space to another space.
Right.
And if I hadn't voiced out at one time, if I hadn't grown up at that moment, and if I hadn't realized that the world is mine. This city is mine. This country is mine.
Right.
You know, I have to explore my thoughts, and I have to, working towards achieving my dreams. If that confidence hadn't become a part of me or grown within me, I don't think I would have been able to do any of the things that I just mentioned right now.
Right. Two questions, two in one. So, do you think what you faced was because you are a woman?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's easier to harass a woman, especially if she looks timid, and if they think you look weak, and they've been observing me for some time now.
Mm-hmm.
They've been trying to scare me. You know, they enjoyed it when I was getting all scared, when I looked all the more timid.
Right.
You know, it was entertainment for them.
Right.
Right. So of course it was because I was a woman.
Right. So, going back to some of the early discussions, I might have missed this, but how did you gain that confidence to say enough?
I didn't have the confidence. When you're in fear and when you have actually had enough, that's when your body responds.
Right.
Because when I entered the shop to save myself, because I saw a few people there, and I could recognize a few faces from my university right next to the CD shop. So I was like, okay, familiar faces. I think this space might be safe for me because music, right? So I entered. That's what made me enter that space. And when the people who were following me, when they came in, I was like, whoa, they're entering my space. So they can go, and so that which means if I am in university, like with my friends, these people can come and harass me there too.
Right.
If I don't stop them now, I won't be able to stop them ever.
Right.
And I think it was my body that responded because I screamed out.
Right.
You know, like and that was very, very loud. And that caused like a ripple effect, I think, because that caused everyone to come. The people who were there, the manager who was sitting inside the room, to come out as well, and be there for me and support me.
Speaking up is not all that easy, especially when you've learned that fear is safer.
Yes, of course. And I think for that you would have to take the step to, you really need to get out of your comfort zone. Once you do that, your body starts experiencing a lot of changes. You automatically find yourself facing a lot of challenges and facing your fears.
Right.
Yeah.
Straight to that. Globally, many women across the world are still living in silence, going through a lot, but still feel safer in silence.
Yes.
What would you want them to know?
I have seen women, and I have spoken to women who are not in a safe space at all, but they're stuck there. And it's very, very difficult for them to actually get out of that space and save themselves or speak out. And if I actually say that, no, you have to step out of your comfort zone and speak out, it wouldn't be fair on them, because it really takes a lot for many people,
right.
Especially if you're part of society that tells you to do exactly that.
Right.
However, I would still urge them to look for ways that can take you out of the dungeon that you're stuck in. Because trust me, there are ways that can actually take you out of the dark place that you're in. There are.
Talking about those ways, is that like physical, or it's a mental?
It starts with mental, of course. You first have to decide that, okay, I'm going to change I'm going to change the way I look at life. I'm going to because the only person who can change is you. You can change yourself. You cannot wait. If I sit and wait for other people to come and help me out, it's not going to happen. You have to take that first step, right. And that is the most difficult step.
Right.
You need to take that step and first think that, okay, you know what, I'm going to change the way I think. I'm not going to let the person who I live with take advantage of me anymore. It might be like a little itsy bitsy thing happening at home, maybe, which would inspire you to think that way. You know, you have to, once you get that thought inside you, hold on to that thought. Hold on to that mental space that you just created for yourself, because it's very important that you hold on to it and you start thinking more. If you are in a space where it's really dangerous for you to get out, take time.
Right.
Take time, think about it. Look for, can you call the police? Can you call a neighbor? Do you have friends around you? Are you okay to make a phone call? Do you have the opportunity to go out and do something? Think about this and take that step. I'm talking about the people who I've actually spoken to, and have had some experiences with them. But then there are also other people who have all these opportunities, but they're still stuck somewhere. And that also is a different kind of a problem.
Right.
For that, I would say the same thing. You really need to step out of your comfort zone.
Right.
Take that extra step, walk that extra mile.
Yeah. So if you could go back to younger Elita, the part of you that was still silent, what would you say now?
You should have screamed earlier. That's all I'm going to say. You should have voiced out a little earlier, maybe.
Right.
The earlier it happens, the better it is for you. But I have no regret.
All right. Well, she chose to rise. So in your perspective, what does rising mean to you today?
Being kind, being human. When I rise, and if I rise, I think I am rising also on behalf of my community, the people around me, because you cannot do anything on your own. I'm sorry to say this, but I don't believe that there is any such thing as a self-made man or a self-made woman. There are always people around you supporting you, even the roommate that you live with, who you live with, maybe she's cooking something and I'm like, okay, hey, I didn't cook anything, I just have the leftover. That's support enough. Or the shop downstairs where the shopkeeper knows you and keeping the best piece of fruit for you or something, keeping it aside because the shopkeeper knows that, these are some funny examples that I'm giving. But or maybe your teacher who appreciates the way you think, or maybe a friend, or someone you talk to. All these experiences and all these actions and activities, they do affect you and your mental space, and they do encourage you, motivate you, inspire you to grow. So if I rise, and when I rise because of all these people around me and my community. If I have the opportunity to rise, then once I reach that place, I have to make sure that I help other people rise as well. Yeah.
If I have that opportunity, I need to make sure that happens. Yeah. Because when I rise, it's not just me rising.
It's everyone with me.
I rise with my community.
Yeah.
Well, that's a powerful one.
Yeah, because I need to pull people up. I should not push them down.
Right. Yeah. And there's no self-made man.
Well, that's my definition. People would define it in different ways, but I think there's like a whole village out there which is supporting you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us in this first episode. And I believe people are looking forward to read the book to get the in-depth of your story.
Absolutely. And those watching and listening to us, I would tell you, please buy a copy of the book. Get a copy. And there are so many beautiful stories of so many beautiful women from all over the world. It's going to be an exciting experience for all of you.
Thank you. Breaking silence doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it begins with a private truth, a boundary, a refusal to disappear. Elita's story reminds us that voice is not just about sound, it's about presence. about believing yourself enough to speak. If this episode resonated with you, I invite you to reflect. Where have you been silent to survive? And what might it mean to speak gently, safely, in your own time? You can read Elita's full story in She Chose to Rise, wherever you can get your book from. You can share this episode of the podcast with someone who needs it. And you can remember that your voice matters, even before the world is ready to hear it. This is She Chose to Rise, stories of women who spoke when silence was safer. It's a global Rise and Soar production in partnership with Engage Salone. I am Mariatu. Until next time, keep rising.